In many medieval towns, death took place in the open. A scaffold and stake stood in the main square, where sentences were carried out before crowds. Executions did more than kill. They warned and displayed power over faith, treason, revolt, and private choices. Let's discuss 8 horrible medieval deaths. The story begins with William Wallace, a leader of Scottish resistance to English rule at the end of the 13th century. After defeat and betrayal, he was taken to London, tried in Westminster Hall, and condemned as a traitor. He was dragged through the streets, hanged until near death, then disemboweled, beheaded, and quartered. His head on London Bridge and limbs in Scottish towns turned his remains into a map of warning. Almost a century later, the rebel priest John Ball met a similar end after the peasants' revolt of 1381. Ball preached that all shared the same first parents and questioned why some ruled while others labored. When the rising collapsed, he was captured, brought to London, and condemned under Richard II. He was drawn to the gallows, hanged until close to death, then cut open and quartered, with parts displayed in London and St. Albans, so others could see the cost of challenging the social order. Not all brutal deaths came from courts. Some, like that of Archbishop Alphege, grew out of ransom and anger. As Archbishop of Canterbury during Viking raids, he was captured in 1012 and urged to let a huge ransom be taken from his people. He refused. During a drunken feast at Greenwich, his captors dragged him outside, hurled bones and stones, then struck his head with an axe. His later honor as a martyr showed how warfare, money, and faith could meet in a single killing. Violent death could also fall on those who crossed social boundaries, as in the case of Agnes Bernauer. The daughter of an Augsburg barber, she secretly married Duke Albrecht of Bavaria in the early 15th century. To his family, a common-born wife threatened the ducal line, since any children might claim high rank. While Albrecht was away, she was seized on his father's orders and taken to the Danube near Straubing. There she was, chained and thrown into the river without a formal trial. Her drowning showed how lineage and inheritance could outweigh affection or justice. In Italian cities, religious politics could end on the scaffold, as shown by Girolamo Savonarola's death in 1498. A Dominican friar in Florence, he attacked luxury, corruption, and abuses in the city and the church, while briefly guiding the government, which cost him support among papal and local authorities. After arrest and torture, he was stripped of office and condemned. In the Piazza della Signoria, he and 2 followers were hanged, then their bodies burned, and the ashes scattered in the Arno. The square that had heard his sermons now held his execution. Further north in England, religious change claimed the life of Anne Askew, a young Protestant gentlewoman. She read scripture herself and spoke for reform in the last years of Henry VIII. Arrested for heresy, she was taken to the Tower of London and stretched on the rack as officials demanded names. She gave none. By 1546, she could not walk and was carried to Smithfield, fastened to the stake, and burned while praying aloud. Her broken figure in a busy market showed that belief alone could bring a public death. Another Tudor victim, Margaret Pole, Countess of Salisbury, died in a way that disturbed even hardened onlookers. An elderly noblewoman with Plantagenet blood and the mother of Cardinal Reginald Pole, she was linked to critics of Henry VIII. Accused of treason on vague grounds, she was sent to the block at the Tower of London. Refusing to kneel still, she moved on the scaffold, and the inexperienced headsman hacked at her head and shoulders several times. A ritual meant to show order instead looked like public butchery in the king's name. Long after the medieval period, one last spectacle in Paris showed how old methods lingered: the 1757 execution of Robert François Damiens for slightly wounding King Louis XV. At the Place de Grève, his flesh was torn with hot pincers, boiling liquid was poured into the wounds, and each limb was tied to a horse. When the animals failed to pull him apart, assistants cut tendons so the body would separate. The drawn-out torture became a final echo of medieval punishment in a kingdom beginning to question such scenes. These deaths show how law, belief, and power shaped not only who died, but how their end was shown to others. For clearer, careful looks at medieval life, conflict, and belief, consider subscribing to future videos